Welcome to It Takes Heart. I'm Kate.
And I'm Sam, and we can't wait to share more incredible stories of healthcare professionals making an impact across Australia.
The only way I could get to go and do medicine after I got through the GAMSAT and all the rest of it was to join the Defence Force. So I was a doctor in the Air Force for 11 years. Becoming a doctor would mean security for me and my family as far as my profession. It would enable me to do something, to try and make a difference somewhere.
We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land of which we meet, who for centuries have shared ancient methods of healing and cared for their communities. We pay our respects to elders past and present.
So today we're here with Dr. Karyn Matterson, who has come almost 1,000 kilometres from Blackall Hospital in Outback, Queensland. Karyn is a specialist GP and rural generalist with a passion for primary healthcare for every Australian, everywhere. What Kate and I found particularly fascinating about Karyn is that healthcare wasn't her first career choice. She had a successful career in events and tourism before a life-changing event brought a different perspective and guided her toward a career with purpose in healthcare. She is currently the Director of Medical Services for Blackall Hospital and has always taken an active role in various professional committees, such as the Queensland faculty of the RACGP or the Council for GP at AMA Queensland. She previously held the role of President of GP Registrars Australia as well. A fun fact about Karyn is that she's great friends with Sonia Henry, who you may remember from season 1 of the podcast. Karyn, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to It Takes Heart.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Kate. Nice to be here.
Yeah, I want to start first with Sonia.
Okay. Everyone does.
We loved the book, and obviously the book was the inspiration for the podcast, just telling these great stories of all of these amazing healthcare professionals in our country. Were you one of the characters in the book?
Look, I cannot confirm and I don't know because Sonia was very, very careful about keeping every identity a secret.
Yeah.
So, and there's lots of fiction in there as well.
Is there as well? You've got to tell a good, never hold back a bit of a good story there as well. That's always my motto. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. How did you meet Sonia?
We met at medical school.
Right.
We actually did our rural clinical school placement together up in a little town called Lithgow, which is an hour and a half out of the Sutherland Shire, where I grew up.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, in New South Wales. And Sonny and I and two other of our fellow students, 4 of us, were up there for about 10 weeks on placement. We had an amazing time, which involved going down a mine shaft one day.
Working or just as a
fun,
social?
Yeah, no, not for fun. We were actually quite terrified at times. It was pitch black. Dark and wet. We got dressed up in our fluoro overalls, got in this little tram, and we went down.
I would be.
And it was
dark.
dark.
would not have done this.
I'm not good at it.
She really gets in the lift at work.
But it was amazing seeing all of the life and the work that goes on underground, because Lithgow is a coal mining area and a steel production area, and for us to go down there, and then we spent time with the occupational physician that worked with the mines. So the medicine context was then, overlaid in that particular experience. It was incredible. But then we had bingo at the Lithgow RSL too, which was amazing.
Down in the mine.
Yeah. So we've been great friends since then, and Sonia's actually come out to Blackall on a locum stint for me as well. So she knows the area out there.
Oh. Now, what we found really fascinating when we were speaking is that, and as Sam mentioned, you had a career before medicine. Talk us through it. I think there's a bit of probably people assume that people go through primary school saying, I'm going to be a doctor, and then everything they do is leading to that straight from school.
Not to mention the years to become a doctor. So to have other careers, how did it happen for you? Where do you want to be when you left school?
Well, that's a really good question. I sort of took a lot of detours on the way. I remember being a kid and wanting to be involved in advocacy of some sort, and it started out in grade 5, I think it was, and wrote a letter to the Prime Minister about save the baby seals.
Oh,
and I
wow.
remember that picture with their big black doughy eyes looking out at me on the ice and on the snow. And I thought, I've got to write. I've got to do something. I've got to do something here. I've really got to, have a say and do something. And so I wrote a letter, and that sort of, I got a response, which was fantastic, and then sort of went from there. And then in Year 7, a fellow student of mine got run over by a bus in front of the school. And I thought, this isn't right. We've got to do something about this. And I wrote a letter to the local newspaper advocating for a bus bay to be put in. And a bus bay was put in.
Wow.
And so I got this passion for doing stuff and getting involved and making a difference wherever I could. And sort of went on from there. I was in youth groups and all sorts of things. And then my family moved down to Tasmania, and it was all different for me. They had a different schooling system. I was in Year 10 at the time. Had the typical Year 10 distractions that you do.
Yes.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah. And so I decided to leave school at 16. And then I left school and I walked up to my first employer and knocked on the door and said, "Can I have a job, please?" And I started as a junior accounts clerk. And I remember I was earning $120 a week.
Funny, did you get it in a little packet?
Yes.
Yeah, remember that? We got your packet written on the front.
And I used to take the mail out, and I used to look after the, balancing the petty cash and, all of that type of thing. And then the company shut down in Tasmania, and we had a choice. We could go anywhere in Australia, or we could take a redundancy package. Now, at 16, almost 17, I thought, bugger it, I'm going to go travel.
Yeah.
And so I got posted to Ayers Rock, and I lived in Ayers Rock as a front office person at Yalara there for 6 months.
Wow.
Oh, my.
How? And you went on your own, or was there a few people
own.
Being posted?
People got posted anywhere and everywhere.
How did you find that? Because I was there this year, and I'm visualising, I'm like 16, 17.
Yeah. I was 16 and I was frightened. I've still got friends from Ayers Rock and there was one particular lady that took me under her wing and looked after me, which was fantastic because I was so young. Climbed the rock, had family come and visit, did a little bit of a fashion parade when the fashion came out, got involved in the community and I met many, many people, but then went back to Sydney and stayed in tourism at the time, and that was my first career, tourism, and particularly inbound tourism. And again, I still know people from my inbound tourism days. And my role was developing programs for executives that won trips to come to Australia that they couldn't buy the program off the shelf in a brochure. We had to do it from go to woe, start to finish. And it was a life full of fun and laughter and parties and dress-ups and, lots of, fireworks and, we extended the Hamilton Island runway to get a German aircraft, a DC-10 in there. So it was stuff that we were doing to make it a fantastic experience for everyone. And that's when I met my husband, Matthew, when I was doing an all-nighter, trying to get 150, Americans out to Australia and win a job, which we won, by the way. But I met him because he was a security guard at the time. And he brought me back breakfast. And we fell in love and got married and had our first child and moved up to Port Douglas in far north Queensland, where I was running Village Carnivale. And unfortunately, that's the time where tragedy sort of struck in my life, and Matthew suicided. And Elise, my daughter, she was just before she was 1 year of age. It was the day before her first birthday party.
Oh my goodness.
And her birthday fell a couple of days before. So that, needless to say, was life-changing, but not just for me. It was bad for me, but it's been worse for children of people that suicide, not to have an opportunity to meet their parent. And family and friends and colleagues, I call it the ripple effect. That ripple effect just permeates through people when someone suicides. And it takes a lot for someone to, get through that really, intense time when there's, funerals and sadness and all that grief.
Did you have family around?
Well, my family were all in Sydney.
Sydney, yeah.
And I was, as I say, I was up there running this event, and then I got a job in a tourism marketing company. And I remember being up in the office and getting a message to call a police officer, and this police officer delivered the news to me over the phone. And it was just so traumatic. People came running from everywhere not knowing what had gone on because, I just, screamed. You just don't know how it's going to affect you at the time.
How do you said about how did you get through that moment, like with a 1-year-old, to get through those years?
Yeah, so my mum and dad were on a plane immediately, and I remember that night just mum and dad, hugging me because I was just inconsolable. So there comes a time when there's quiet though, and that quiet usually happens after the funeral's done and everyone goes home and goes back to their life, and life goes on, right? And in that quiet moment, I thought again, I've got to do something. And I remember lying on 4 Mile Beach when everyone had gone home and everything was quiet, and I felt the warmth of the sand and I had it in my hands, and I thought, I've got to relearn again. I have to do something. I have to do something more than fun and frivolity and parties and, and no denigration whatsoever to that industry because I love it. But for me, I had to do something. And so I went back and I relearnt. I felt like I needed to relearn again. And I went back and I did my HSC. I hadn't done my HSC with a 1-year-old. And I went back and did that. And then I got myself into Sydney Uni to study psychology. And that lasted about 2 minutes.
Like that.
I can imagine going into psychology too. That would, coming out of what you just have, that in itself would be challenging subjects.
I hated the biostatistics. That was just like, no, can't do this. And, I still do it in my role now. But, anyway, at that time, I didn't do it. And I went back to tourism for a little bit. And then I decided to try again, and I got myself into clinical dietetics. And I spent the next 4 years studying nutrition and dietetics at the University of Wollongong and graduated with Class 1 honours.
Well done.
Thank you.
How old was Elise by this stage?
She was 8.
It's incredible.
And just amazing.
Yeah. She was still in primary school, and I'd had another child by then because I'd been married again with my second husband. Travis was very young as well, so he was only 5. And then started my own business working as a clinical dietitian. So that's how I sort of got into healthcare, because I felt like I needed to do something that was going to help more people. And clinical dietetics is I'm just going to be a little bit biased here, but I think it's very underrated and hasn't been supported in the past for many Australians to get access to good clinical evidence-based data about clinical nutrition and dietetics. So I'm really, I do take that opportunity to use it wherever I can within my role as a doctor. So then, I had my own business as a dietitian. I implanted myself in GP surgeries around New South Wales. I did I did a lot of aged care work for nursing homes in the Shire. That was a big area of interest, and so was weight management and obesity. And I actually had the opportunity to not only be the national convener for the Rehabilitation and Aged Care Group for DAA, but Dietitians Association, but also had the opportunity to speak to the House of Representatives and the obesity inquiry in 2000, I think it was 2006, 2008. Yeah.
What an incredible opportunity.
Yeah, but I couldn't get medicine out of my head.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, was medicine coming up through when you'd been in those private practices?
Yeah.
Did it sort of evolve?
Because you could see the knock-on effect and you could see the links.
Yeah, I could see the links because I could deliver all of this information to my patients, which they found really, really useful. But if I didn't have the GP on board, then there was no incentive for the GP to be involved, it was very difficult to deliver a holistic therapy, so to speak, to the patient. So I just no, I need to be the one writing the care plan.
Yeah.
I need to be orchestrating it and understanding how it works. I need to get that. I need to be there and I need to do more. I just need to do more.
And so was GP always on the radar, or when you went into medicine, so going to medical school then, was that a very clear vision that I want to be a general practitioner, or was it a bit open at that stage?
It was open, and it's really interesting that you bring up that point because through medical school and pre-vocational training, many people might have a special interest, but they still haven't decided. I was interested in emergency medicine, but the only way I could get to go and do medicine after I got through the GAMSAT and all the rest of it was to join the Defence Force. So I was a doctor in the Air Force for 11 years. And the reason being was I was sponsored through medical school because I had a family, I had a mortgage, I had everything. And it was the only way I could do it.
Did someone plant that idea to you?
Ask, I'm like, how did you do medical school?
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
And did someone just recommend that to you, or was it just through research that you saw that as an option?
Through research, through research. And then obviously when you come along and, you've got a decent score and all the rest of it, and you're a Commonwealth supported place, Defence goes, thanks very much, we'll take you.
Yes.
And so I then, after my internship and residency, went on base.
And for 11 years, was it, did you say? So
11 years in total. Yeah. So my medical training, throughout training, I was supported by Defence, paid a salary. So I was able to, maintain a family. Yeah. I was on my third husband by then, by that stage. Yeah. Who was my high school sweetheart, by the way, from Tasmania.
From Tassie.
Yes.
What a full circle moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Is he your current husband?
Yes, he is.
You're going to know. He's it. Wow.
Yeah.
And did you have...
You need to talk to Sonia because you could write a book too.
You really could write a book, definitely.
We haven't even got started yet. And this is,
I know.
Sorry.
Don't apologise. There's so many questions I've got here.
So many things.
Can I ask, when you said you lived on base with the family?
No.
So you were flying home. Like, what was the frequency?
So... through medical school, I was with a family, and through internship and residency, and I did my internship and residency at St George Hospital in New South Wales. I then was posted to Williamtown up in Newcastle, and I lived on base but away from home, so I was living away from home. My family was still in Sydney. And so I used to travel up and travel back. Travel up, travel back.
Every week, every
month?
Not
every fortnight, basically. Yeah. And the kids were getting, older at this stage and a lot more independent, and so it's easier when the kids are a little bit older. It's really difficult when they're younger.
Yeah. Yes, it is. We are in those trenches solidly right now.
Yeah. So I did a few years at Williamtown and then was posted to Amberley.
For anyone listening who's going like, how did you do that? There would have been so many challenges to overcome to studying as a mature age student, being away from home. Like, what were the biggest challenges or roadblocks that you faced, but then how did you overcome them?
Okay. So memory.
Yeah.
So when you get older, it's harder
It is.
to study, not only because it's just physiologically harder to retain that information, it's also family pressures. Yeah. And, I'd go home and be trying to study, and I'd have Trav, my son, at the door. Mum, can I have this?
Yes.
Can I do this?
What you doing?
What are you doing now, Mum? And then in contrast, I'd have my daughter come up and she'd give me a nice massage. I'm like, oh, stop. But lots of distractions. You overcome it by sheer determination, Sam. And
You're so focused on this.
Yeah, and it's like like becoming a doctor would mean security for me and my family in as far as my profession for the rest of our lives. It would enable me to do something, to try and make a difference somewhere with someone or a community or a system. And it would, have me busy, I guess.
You can see how purpose-driven you are and how much it obviously just fills your cup to be doing the right thing for people.
Yeah,
and
I
to be
try.
helping, and that's obviously innate since you were little.
Yeah.
When you left then defence, what's the journey been from there to now? And where did the love for rural health come in? And Blackall,
So when I left the Defence Force, I was like a kid in a candy shop. I traversed the country from Darwin down to Tasmania, out to Palm Island.
Just locuming?
Locuming.
And how,
for a couple of years. Yeah.
And on your own, or taking family with you, or a bit of a mix?
Bit of a mix.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a mix. So a lot of the locum places, my husband would come with me. And
what does Simon do?
He works in the banking industry. He's completely not involved in medicine.
Yeah, so
as
he
a
can't
professional.
come along and work in those areas.
No.
Because some of our guests have been like taking their husbands along, and they'll do some handiwork around the hospital, and he just comes along.
Yeah. Well, Simon's got this incredible knack of just being there as well for people whenever they need it. So, like, even in our house up in Blackall, there's little things that might need doing, like the water tank might have a valve that needs turning, or the gas needs replacing or something. And usually the doctor would say to the maintenance people or the business manager, can you do this? But Simon just gets out and does it.
Gets it done.
Yeah, and I mean, the feedback that he has is that it takes a huge pressure off for someone to
help.
actually just be there. Yeah. But he does really well in communities. Fairly quiet type of man, but he does well to make friends. So
And so you locumed all around.
All around, all around
What
Australia.
were some of your favourite places?
I loved Cap Coast, so up in Yeppoon there. That was pretty great. I was there for...
That's where I'm from.
Oh, really?
Grew up there.
Nice area. Yeah, really
Changed
nice
a lot.
area. Yeah. Wangaratta was pretty good too, down
We've
in
always placed a lot
Victoria.
of candidates down in Wangaratta. They've always loved it.
Yeah, the hospital there, I basically just looked after fast track there in emergency, and it was fantastic because the GPs are very, very good at dealing with those Cat 4 and 5s that come into. We're good with dealing with emergencies too, because that's what we do. But to be able to turn people over and see them in the time that we are used to seeing patients is really useful for some of those country hospitals. And a lot of the presentations, I've got to say, and GPs know what they're looking at, whereas non-GP specialists sometimes are just not they know it, but it's not a common thing that they see, so they don't recognise it maybe as quickly, like some sort of rash, something like that. So, I mean, that's a good example of rash, you know. Yeah.
Why? What do you love about? Because obviously, when you were locuming around and going to these rural and regional locations, what do you love most about those roles versus maybe settling in one of the metropolitan areas?
I think the opportunity to experience Australia from a different perspective. Different areas offer different things, different landscapes, different feels, different people, and people, I think, in rural and remote areas have unique stories, just as people do in metro. But people live in metro and don't talk to each other in communities for forever. Whereas it's a little bit different in remote and rural places. People tend to talk and ask questions.
Yeah, it's come up a little bit, hasn't it, that some of the city healthcare professionals that we have are actually the loneliest they've ever felt, and they're in these metro areas with everything at their disposal, with people everywhere, yet lonely.
Yeah.
And they go out to more rural communities and there's that real feel. There's people do things together.
It's funny because the paradox of being the furthest away and being, just so isolated are some of the times when I felt the closest to people, So that fabric and that meshwork is, when I say people, I'm talking about other professionals that are in the area, nursing staff or allied health staff, and that teamwork. And I guess Defence really built that teamwork ethos, and so did dietetics, that teamwork ethos.
You've got to collaborate with
You've got to
people.
collaborate, and you've got to talk to people, and you've got to problem solve, and sometimes you are there by yourself and you're just it. And that's pretty scary. But in metro, you sort of, and especially this is so difficult for a lot of our young early career doctors going into specialist general practice training. They feel so alone in their room. And it's quite isolating
because they're a general practitioner in a clinic room. That's
literally.
Rather than in a ward with other people and other beds. How do we help that?
I think peer learning is really important, and networks are really important. It's a big role for our colleges and our associations to play in that. Having not only professional mentorship but also that near peer.
Especially if you're going out into these locations too and then feeling that lack of connection it would be so important.
That's right. And certainly moving from pre-vocational training into specialist general practice or rural generalism, there's so much more we can do in order to, put some guardrails or some, supports in place to not only help pre-vocational doctors choose specialist GP and rural generalist training, but also to keep them in it.
What would you say those guardrails are?
Well, there's the planks of being recognised as an equitable specialty training program with other specialty training programs. Currently, GP registrars take, in metro areas, take a huge pay cut to come into training. So just some support for base rate parity, and
You've got to seek it as an equal career, right?
You've got to seek it.
They should be
It
rewarded
can't
in the
be
same way.
seen,
Second class
I was just gonna
career.
say
Poor
that.
cousin.
I was just say the poor relative of every other specialty.
Yeah, because it's not easy. Generalism is. I'm going to go out on the limb, and I don't mean to offend any of my non-GP specialist colleagues here, but generalism's hard. It's bloody hard.
That's come through a lot.
It's not. It's not just one system. It's all systems, and that seeking of information and that surgical sieve, the sifting and the sorting, and which way do you go? Which alleyway do you go down to try and help this patient? It's really challenging, and it's a profession, and you can't learn that profession in a 1-hour webinar.
And even the personal skills, I imagine, that are required by a GP, maybe not in others, to ask the right questions, to get the right information of people who maybe aren't forthcoming. And very different.
Yeah, it is very different. Sorry, Sam, I forgot your question.
No, I feel like you answered it. I was know the guardrails. I was like, what are the guardrails?
Yeah,
so, is there anything else that might hold them back?
Yeah, so there's those the systemic guardrails, as in, the salary supports and the leave supports, like GP registrars need study leave and exam leave, just like hospital non-GP registrars need it. So supports around that. Parental leave, paid parental leave for them as well. So they're really important systemic changes that need to be enacted without the detriment of anyone in other areas. It's just got to be a little bit of an uplift there. From a collegiate perspective, again, those peer hubs and the supports and the knowing where to go, and potentially value matching a supervisor with a registrar, and ensuring that they know that there's support out there through not only their employers, but also with the fantastic organisations like Doctors for Doctors or the Rural Doctors Foundation, all of those supports that are out there, just trying to link that information together.
That's such a piece. I was just thinking when you were talking about the support piece, when I graduated as an occupational therapist, I went up to Toowoomba Hospital and all the seniors were pregnant and they all kind of disappeared, and there was 4 of us that were graduates at the time, and just that feeling of, I don't know who our people are, who's there to support us, that it was such an unsettling time, and it was so much pressure on the one person, but not being able to link up. We kind of created our own little support network and tried to seek out other graduates and in other health services around us to get us through that. And you kind of underestimate that. You've come out and you're so excited to go, but it can really detract you as well.
Yep, and then you go, oh no, I'm ready to go.
I remember an orthopedic surgeon coming to me and saying, can you make a hand splint? I don't know where to turn it on, but go on. There's no hand therapist there, but I'll have a crack. You got a manual? He's like, no, you do. I was like, oh, well, I'm out. I'm going to London. Literally.
Yeah.
So it sounds like support is that overarching in various different mechanisms of what they need. I guess if you were standing in a room of those junior doctors and you were standing there talking to them about how rural generalism can be as a career or GP, what do you say to them to really, not to sell to them, but what
inspire?
How do you inspire them?
Yeah. There's, again, lots of different areas because everyone is different as far as what floats their boat.
And why their why. Everyone's got a different why.
Yeah. So I talk about how good the medicine is, how wide the medicine is as far as scope, and there's at times when you have to take deep dives into that medicine when, you've got something happening.
Something's presenting,
And I talk about the connection to people and feeling like you're actually making a difference to that person. And then I talk about doing, because in rural medicine we say you can't be what you can't see. So it takes a lot of people being to grow the profession. And, I think generally healthcare professionals are, they've got an element of altruism.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like we're doing good for...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're changing everything.
Yeah, we're changing everything.
Yeah.
We're doing good for the country. We're doing good for our neighbour, our community. And that contribution to the community is what inspires a lot of people. And, it's true. Again, we go back to starting in the bush. If you grow healthcare professionals in the bush, if you're growing them in those remote areas, if you're growing them, the kids on cattle farms that are out in Outback Queensland or anywhere in Australia, then they're going to go back there because that's their community. And, there's so many young people that are inspired when they go to the doctor and they see their doctor. They're inspired to become a doctor. So it's really important to say, as healthcare professionals, as young doctors, as pre-vocational doctors and medical students, use that feeling of your altruism and use it and shine with it.
You can do, you can be.
Yeah, you can do, you can be. And, sometimes it takes people a longer journey to get to where they are, but when you're there, geez, it feels good.
And I'm sure you can speak from your own personal experience, It doesn't have to be the first idea you've had.
No.
You can get there whenever it takes you there.
Yeah, I think the average careers most people have is 3 careers in a lifetime now, isn't that right?
It'll be more now that life expectancy is longer and longer.
Yeah.
Recently I was saying we're going to live to 110.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's right. We were
both
at a
like,
conference going, what?
What are we going to do?
Oh, that's good. I want to live to 110.
Well, there you go. You might have the 4th career, There's still time. Tell us about then Blackall.
Blackall.
Took the words out of my mouth. Let's inspire people to go there, for example.
Okay.
What's it like? You mentioned that you live on the grounds earlier when you're talking. What's it like? What's a hospital like? What's being out there?
It's the experience.
Yeah. Blackall is, the Blackall Tambo region is a community of about 1,500 people. We're the only GP in town. So Central West Queensland is an area of Queensland Health that actually owns all the general practice, because Medicare on the funding and all the rest of it, there's been the owners of general practice have left, and it's happening all over Australia. We see it happening all over Australia. So the state has picked up all of the GP services. We're very lucky in Blackall because we've got a brand new hospital and GP surgery. So it's 4 years old. And when I first arrived in Blackall, because I went on a cook's tour of the Central West with my boss, Dr. David Walker, and one of the general managers of acute care, a fabulous nurse, Karyn Matterson. And I did a bit of a cook's tour. I did Blackall and Buckalden and Longreach, and they were showing me all the different areas, knowing that I'd locumed all over the place, but they really wanted me to see the area. And I went into Blackall and I was like, this fabulous brand new facility, just built by St Hilliers, who now are broke. They were one of many after, the what we've gone through over post-COVID. But yes, fabulous hospital, brand new facilities, and this only GP in town. And so I just went, oh, dang, what a difference I can make.
Yeah, everyone is going to come and see me.
Because were you sort of scoping around at this point to go, where do I want to settle?
Yeah.
Like, was this after
where do I want to land?
Yeah.
Where do I want to land? Because locuming's great. It's a great experience, but you're there flying in and you're not part of a team. And, as much as you are made to feel welcome, the mantra virtually as soon as you land is, oh, please stay. And
And that must make it really hard to leave as well when people just want you there.
Yeah, and it might be a bit much to say it's a moral injury, but in a way, general practitioners, if they can't do something, it does feel a little bit difficult. So, sorry, I digress.
No, it's wonderful. It's all relevant.
Yeah. So, I landed in Blackall and had a bit of a look, and Barkey had a fabulous acting DMS already in place, Waylon, and, so that was... if there was someone in place, there's no way that you're going to, want to, be competition when the area needs so much. Yeah. So it's like, no. And then Longreach, and Longreach has got a fabulous team of GP anaesthetists and GP obstetricians, and they had a birthing centre up there, and a lot of local women give birth up there, and they have specialists come out all the time. I thought, that's a bit big for my first DMS gig. I want to just,
settle in a little bit.
Get to know the area. We're a team of 30 doctors out there across Central West. Right. Yeah. And as I say, we've got skilled GP anaesthetists, GP obstetricians, GP EDs, such as myself.
It's so far, you need to be able to manage everything.
Yeah, but we can't.
Yeah.
That we still can't manage everything. We've got mental health subspecialties. We've got people with internal medicine ASTs, and paediatrics. Yeah, so we've got a team of, we're not one or two doctors in Blackall, permanent doctors in Blackall. We're a team of 30 doctors that we can phone a friend when we need it.
Across that whole region.
Yeah, across the whole region. So I thought, okay, this is great. I'll be, first
safe
DMS
space.
role.
Yeah.
Team there, new facility. Now, where to live?
Yeah.
And what is Simon, my husband, going to do as well? Thank goodness we didn't have to worry about childcare because my kids are grown up. And there was a house on the premises named the Palace.
On the hospital grounds.
Yep.
Name the Palace.
It's called the Palace.
Yes.
Is it
the Palace?
Yeah. It's actually very, very comfortable. The bugs think it's good too.
Yeah.
They've moved in.
The bug palace.
And the geckos.
Yeah.
God, those geckos poo.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Like once you've got one, they're in.
Yeah.
They're in.
Yeah. So they're there.
But then they help with the bugs, right?
Yeah, right.
Yep.
And that's what we keep on saying. So we've just named
Is there
them.
snakes?
Yes, I had a brown snake on my front fence, a baby brown. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a bit like that. So, but the house is great, and it's only like 70 metres or so from the hospital. So the good side is that it's 70 metres or so from the hospital.
I was just about to say, are you too accessible at times?
The bad side is... Well,
how do you separate and have those?
Well, actually, everyone is really respectful.
Yeah.
And, we've got an amazing team of nurses out there, really some senior nurses, and we've got some enthusiastic new grad nurses. Central West runs a fantastic new grad program out there. But everyone's really, really respectful. When you're off, you're off. It's your time off. But I don't respect myself. I go into work all the time. So
I think that would be hard. I live 70 metres from this office.
Yeah. Yes.
I'd be in the morning, turn the lights on.
That makes sense now. When we spoke the other day and you said you'd walked into the office, and I thought, surely she must be home now. But not far.
No. So it's great though, because I walk out my front door and there is this, I walk out and there's usually kangaroos around.
You had brown snake on the fence. And
but that was once.
I know. Move forward.
Yeah.
Kangaroos.
So kangaroos out in the front yard, and I walk up further and there's all these budgerigars and natural bird life. The previous Director of Medical Services, Dr. Kieran Laplastia, who's down in the Gold Coast now, he and someone else, I think. Anyway, they did an amazing job of designing a native garden, a native Australian plants garden, and we've got all these it attracts all these beautiful birds in the morning.
It's a noisy wake up every morning.
It's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Natural alarm.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That, and then the cows mooing out one side and the kangaroos hopping on the other side, and I walk down the path, and then, sometimes my little echidna mates there on my way home, burrowing on the side as well, and then go into work.
It sounds quite vibrant, because I think when some people think Outback Queensland, they would think no sound, maybe the odd squawking, I don't know, crow or something.
Yeah.
But that sounds really quite.
Yeah. Well,
Blackall
is one of the towns that is actually has the artesian basin running underneath, and so Blackall, Tambo, that region has no water restrictions. So people have lovely gardens, lovely lawns.
It's not what you would expect.
Yeah.
And what about to visit through Blackall?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's the Blackall Tambo region, and Tambo is lots of sheep farmers, big sheep stations out there, and it's the home of Tambo teddies. Have you?
No. I took our kids to Carnarvon Gorge this year in winter time. We had an amazing time. We're thinking of going back this year, but do we keep going on to Longreach and do that?
And Winton?
Yeah.
We are. We're doing that in a caravan.
Are you?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I know, right?
Good on
to
you.
Winton. We're going all the way to Winton. We might just stop at you on the way through.
Yeah.
Easter next year, we're doing 2 weeks in an RV with the 3 kids.
Yeah, right.
Fabulous.
Yeah. All the way out to Winton and Carnarvon Gorge and Longreach.
Yeah.
Well, this is it, because we only had a week, and so we were just outside of Injune and went into the gorge and things like that. But we thought, do we go longer next time and extend it, because the kids loved it.
Yeah.
So much to see.
Well, fair dinkum. Every Aussie needs to go out west and see it. Tambo teddies at Tambo, the wool scour at Blackall, which is a fabulous display of, how wool was classed and washed and processed in times when there was no massive machinery around, and the communities that were there. And then on to Barkey, it's the birthplace of labour with the tree of knowledge there. And then on to Longreach, home of Qantas, School of the Air, the mighty Thompson River.
You've got the big Stockall.
The big Stockall Hall of Fame.
We went there as kids, school camp.
And then Winton with the magnificent dinosaur fossils and all the rest of it. You can see my tourism background.
I was about to say to you, but this is actually like you're selling it. Like I was a bit like, we'll go and do it. And now I'm like thinking, God, we've got a lot to do. Is 2 weeks enough?
There's so much to see, and I think that that's the really wonderful thing for people to also understand. They can get out and experience it. And I think that to be a healthcare professional, how amazing, regardless of what you do, to be able to travel and work in this way, and to be able to experience these communities, to shop before you buy, as it were, and have a look at these areas before you decide if you want to be somewhere a little bit more permanently.
Can I ask them, like, what's next for you? Because you've had these great careers, and is there another iteration? Is, the DMS role, is it staying in
leadership,
DMS
which
role?
is different to...
Where I feel like you're not done. There's a lot more to go. Like, is Blackall long term? Is there other back to?
Are we going back to school to be a fashion designer? What's the next
is there
career?
other things in here?
Look, I think being the president of GP Registrars Australia has given me a really nice entree and taste and grounding in, I guess, strategy at a political level, and the ability to learn and interact with colleagues that are presidents of RACGP and ACRM and the fabulous CEOs that run those organisations, and wonderful people from AMA leadership, Danielle McMullen, Steve Robson, and then all of the RDAA people, and GP Registrars Australia punches well above its weight in having its say and being active in that space, and I loved that. Absolutely loved it. And, you know, I still am in the space where I'm learning and gathering information and really, for Blackall, really looking at workforce. And, you know, I've got a hybrid team out there, and locums has been a dirty word for healthcare policymakers and governments for some time now, and I want to change that because locums aren't a dirty word. I've got a magnificent team of regular fly-in, fly-out doctors, and the community, they come back to the community, and they the community loves them, they love the community, and they love the flexibility.
And locum doesn't mean not committed, right?
That's exactly
they're committed to the community just because they're not there permanently.
Yeah. The locums that are in our team out there are committed. And it's interesting because I was part of the RACGP Future Leaders program, and my project was called Bush Telegraph Doctors, and it was about metro practices pairing up with bush practices to do basically an employment exchange. And allowing metro doctors to go out to the bush. And they could go out for a month, or they could go out for 6 months, or what have you. And whether it was for just to boost appointments and access, or to relieve a bush doctor, for them to go on some leave.
Some annual leave.
Yeah, that was the idea. And then off that idea, there was placements and memorandum of understanding in metro emergency departments for GPs to build their confidence again in trauma and ED situations. And also, phone a friend. So, I mean, that system stuff is what interests me, Sam. And, I would love to have an opportunity looking at a specific area of interest, whether it be in, I'm about to embark on medical weight management, as a GP with special interests in a Brisbane clinic very shortly next year, and just use my dietetic skills and my medicine skills for that area. So whether it's looking at systems in different areas around the world, like different clinics, how they work, or I've got some sort of idea that I want to do some sort of research or study, not necessarily. I don't really want to write a scientific paper.
No.
Remember the statistics?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was like, no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, but I'd like to potentially do that, and then, work to advocate, whether it be through RACGP or ACRM or,
that
take
advocacy piece is still calling you right back to that grade 5.
From the SEALs to
systems,
healthcare, and that's amazing. Yeah. So today, with every episode that goes out, CMR are donating to a charity of your choice. Where have you picked today?
Well, there's an organisation called Remote Australians Matter. And they're a fabulous advocacy organisation of which I'm a financial member. And I would like to donate that particular charity.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much for that awesome opportunity to make that donation. I think that's very generous of you, and the work that you guys are doing to get the message out there is just fabulous. So congratulations, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's lovely hearing about the charities. Like, we want to shine a light on charities that might not also get a light shone on them. And, these conversations are so helpful and inspiring. And thank you, Karyn, for trusting us with your story. You are such an inspirational lady. When you hear you're not finishing high school to where you are today, there will be so many people that will hear this and just be so inspired in so many different ways. And even the love and the passion that you have for rural Australia, you just light
It's
up.
infectious.
It's so infectious. I'm so excited now.
Look, I mean, she's jumping
like,
a
I was
caravan
excited
just off the back of this
I
year.
was a little bit like, but now I'm in there, and
Yeah.
we are so grateful that we got to have time with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Both.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the next step in advocacy for you as well.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in Blackall next year.
Yeah, make sure you
Yes,
do.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks so
you.
much. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning into It Takes Heart. If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend.
And if you know someone with a great story in healthcare, get in touch. Follow us on socials for all the behind the scenes fun, and we'll see you next time.